afternoon, welcome to Dialogue. I'm Yang Rui in Beijing. The One Belt, One Road initiative has become a central focus of China's foreign policy this year. During his visit to Pakistan in April, Chinese President Xi Jinping pledged to invest $46 billion in a corridor across Pakistan linking China with the Middle East. What changes will the China-Pakistan economic corridor bring to the region, and what about the risks? As China and Pakistan enjoy an all-weather friendship, what does that mean to the regional security? I'm honored to be given an exclusive interview with His Excellency Shaukat Aziz, former Prime Minister of Pakistan, during the 4th World Peace Forum of Tsinghua University in Beijing. First of all, let's have a look at this.
A banker and financier by training with extensive experience in the United States, Shaukat Aziz was appointed as Executive Vice President of Citibank in 1999. After accepting a personal request by General Pervez Musharraf, Aziz returned to Pakistan from the US to become the country's finance minister. On August 27, 2004, Aziz was elected Prime Minister by Parliament and was sworn in the next day.
I, Shaukat Aziz,
do solemnly swear that I am a Muslim.
Do solemnly swear that I am a Muslim.
Aziz's macroeconomic policies oversaw political stability and economical progress in Pakistan, subsequently ending the era of stagflation in 2001. For the first time in Pakistan's history, all goals and revenue collection targets were met in his tenure. Moreover, despite a series of internal and external problems, the economic situation of Pakistan improved significantly, and reserves increased to $10.5 billion on 30th of June 2004, compared to $1.2 billion in October 1999. As Prime Minister, Aziz oversaw the large-scale expansion of military reforms and police reforms, and significant investment in the country that led to the boom of the automobile industry, energy megaprojects, nuclear industry and the port industry, and he presided over unprecedented GDP growth. Aziz left office on 16th of November 2007 at the end of the parliamentary term, and became the first Prime Minister of Pakistan who left his seat after completion of the full parliamentary term of 5 years.
Welcome to Dialogue, sir.
Thank you.
What do you make of the recent official visit by President Xi Jinping to your country?
This was a trip which was a game changer for Pakistan, because in the trip President Xi announced the One Belt, One Road initiative relative to Pakistan and a package of $46 billion of projects over a period of time, which would cover a broad facet of activity. And I think the reaction of the people of Pakistan and the government of Pakistan was very, very positive. China is always viewed in Pakistan as a friend of Pakistan. China has stood by us in very challenging times, and for the Chinese leader to visit Pakistan, number one, and then announce what was considered a game-changing initiative and raising the quality of the relationship even higher with development projects, with assistance of in various shapes and forms, really impacted the relationship very positively. And the people at large, if you ask the people in Pakistan today, who is Pakistan's close, sincere friend, I think across the board you will get an answer: China.
The Pew survey says that up to almost 80% of those polled say China is a friend of Pakistan, compared with 14% about the US. President Xi Jinping said that as if his visit to your country is a trip to his home of brother. But Western media say that the bilateral relationship between Islamabad and Beijing is in part based on our mutual antipathy toward India, dating back to the Sino-Indian border clash in 1962. How do you look at the allegation?
I think this is not true at all. The relationship, and I've been part of it for 8 years in government, it's not India-centric at all. We may have had common views on India in terms of in the past, but today it's a positively oriented relationship. It's a win-win for both countries. It's not because there's an adversary, if at all you call India an adversary for countries. In our case, it's a complex relationship with India. But China-Pakistan's relationship has always been positive. China-Pakistan relationship also has one unique feature, which the people of Pakistan respect: non-interference in the internal affairs of each other. And that really gives the relationship, it puts it at a plane which is very, very high. So it is clearly not India-centric, and it is really driven by a win-win on both sides, and shared views, shared values, which we have promoted. There are challenges once in a while, but the fact is that the Chinese-Pakistan relationship, with so many changes in government over the years in Pakistan, and also you've had changes in government here, the relationship has stood steadfast. And time has proven that it goes beyond one issue, or is it related to one country or the other. It is really a win-win for both countries.
Now, the idea of a China-Pakistan economic corridor will connect the western Chinese city of Kashgar with the Pakistani port of Gwadar in the province of Balochistan near the Iran-Pakistan border. The project would give Pakistan's poorest province an economic boost and China's access to another route to the Indian Ocean and the Middle East. Now, the issue is, in this volatile region of the Balochistan, you have the Pakistani Taliban, the domestic violence. Therefore, how do you look at the possibility that China could be involved against our will in the domestic or civil strife?
The issue of terrorism in Pakistan is a serious issue, and it has a lot of root causes. And as you know, generically in the world, terrorism emanates from a feeling of hopelessness in the people, where they feel there's no future, so they get involved in these acts. For Chinese involvement now, under the new package just announced by your president when he visited, the government of Pakistan has said that we will set up a separate security force just for Chinese projects. This will be under these military and the paramilitary apparatus in Pakistan. And that, to me, gives a lot of confidence, because these people are serious people. Our military is first class. If they get involved in something, they do a good job. And this is based on experience of many years I've been observing. So while there may be certain powers or certain entities who do not want to see China get more involved, but I think deep down, the Chinese leadership, the Pakistani leadership, the Chinese people and the Pakistani people see the advantage of the relationship. But, you know, Pakistan is a country of almost 200 million people. And in the province of Balochistan, we have had, it's sparsely populated, but it has had some security issues for quite a while. And gradually the armed forces and the paramilitary forces have come to a situation where the number of incidents has reduced, and the situation is getting better. Our army has done a superb job on terrorism in general. You notice now, even in the city of Karachi, the number of incidents have come down. So with the army involvement in such a direct way in maintaining law and order, irrespective of the deal with China, there's general improvement anyway. And I'm very confident that if we have a special force, trained professional soldiers who will secure the area where the project is going on, it will be a very safe environment for the Chinese people to come. Pakistan can ill afford a project being impacted by events of terrorism, because there's so much at stake. And we do recognize there may be some powers or some entities or some groups who don't like this happening, because they are not really supportive of the growth, the progress and the stability in Pakistan. So, and there's a talk of influence from outside the country on these groups. So I think with the army coming in the front line and our intelligence services more directly involved, I'm very confident that this issue will be resolved.
But are you confident that the money would come from AIIB or Asia Infrastructure Investment Bank, where standards of governance are very strident, or do you think the loan would rather come from policy banks in China? For example, $46 billion worth of a package, would much of that come from the package?
Okay. First of all, let me just clarify that Pakistan is a major borrower from many global institutions, World Bank, Asian Development Bank. We meet any standards. So when a Chinese development institution or a multilateral institution like the AAIB will come to Pakistan, they will not be, our people will not be surprised, and they will be not surprised as to the standards we are used to. So we are huge borrowers from the World Bank and ADB, and I'm very encouraged that the AIIB now is becoming a reality, and this is the most welcome development in the global financial scene for a long time. Why? The reason is that you will have standards of governance which are not hostage to Bretton Woods. When the World Bank and IMF were created, these were created in the shadow of what happened before Bretton Woods. The World War ended and the world was transitioning. So the controls of these institutions were not what you would do today. Today, a bank like AAIB, Asian Infrastructure Bank, would be a meritocracy. So the best person would get the job rather than it'll go to country A or B. 2, it'll be transparent. And 3, the functioning, the corporate governance of the bank will be more modern than what the World Bank and IMF have. By that I mean no need for resident board of directors, no need to have the management disempowered. Management should be held accountable and fully authorized to do what they are required to do, with the board meeting once a quarter maybe to see. But today, in the World Bank and ADB and the IMF, the board is sitting on the same floor as the chief executive of the... How can you have a situation? In the private sector, you would never allow that. There's no difference here too.
And do you expect the private sector of the Chinese economy to make a serious investment in Pakistan? How could they be persuaded to join the government of China in constructing the Pakistan-China economic corridor that connects the Gwadar port city with Kashgar city in Xinjiang?
You see, a lot of these were planned when we built the Gwadar port. But of course, then governments changed and things changed and the plans could not be executed. Now, from what I understand, we are again looking at linking Gwadar port to Kashgar, which will be the spinal cord of the linkage between the two countries. It makes a lot of sense because it gives China access to the warm waters of the Arabian Sea. So they have an alternate route by sea to come to Pakistan and then take a road or train. The roads were planned then, and now I've gone through the initial information which is available. Those roads were never totally built because the project got sort of sideways. Now those plans have been resurrected and improved perhaps and even enlarged, with the result that this road will be built through tendering, and Chinese companies will bid for it, and the linkage will be straight to Kashgar, which is the Silk Road was built some time ago between Kashgar and Pakistan. Now it will be broadened, it will be made all-weather, and that route can then provide an alternative. Of course, the economics have to make sense. The amount of time taken and the other logistics which are required for the road will have to be world-class so people use it. But to me, it's an advantage for Pakistan and an advantage for China to have that opening into the Arabian Sea. If you see where Gwadar is located, it's at the mouth of the Gulf. And a lot of oil trade routes are there, other trade routes are there, and China can, through Kashgar, reach Gwadar in a couple of days by road, if the road is proper and well done, which it will be now. So it gives you an alternate route, and you don't have to come through all the way through the South China Sea to bring the products here.
We see the benefits of such a corridor. However, fighting terrorism remains a top concern on the agenda of both governments. The rise of Islamic State in Iraq and Syria does cast shadow on the stability in Xinjiang, a western frontier that borders Pakistan. To what degree the two sides, Pakistan and China, would join hand in cracking down on the three evil forces through, for example, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization? And are you optimistic that in the next round of enlargement of this regional bloc, the SCO, India and Pakistan are likely to be recruited?
On SCO, Pakistan has always desired to become a full member. We have been observers for a long time. India, Pakistan, Iran,
And Afghanistan.
and Afghanistan. All four countries are, in my view, ready to join and have been willing to join. And now, from what I read and hear, the timing is perhaps right. I think today's environment, if you have linkages and interdependencies, this is a guarantee for peace, it is a guarantee for better relations, and it's a win-win for both sides. So the time has come that SCO, which we have regularly attended, I personally led our delegations to several SCO meetings where we were observers along with India, Afghanistan and Iran, and I think the time has come to bring us into the tent. This will make the relationship with the rest of the region even closer, and this talk about integration, interlinkages or linkages, to me is the best way to develop relations in the future and to ensure peace. Whenever you have dependencies and interlinkages, relationships improve.
Let's look at the stability in Kashgar and Xinjiang. The spillover of Islamic State and particularly Wahhabism from Taliban or the Islamic State may pose a real threat to Xinjiang. How can Pakistan and China work together to nip it in the bud so that the economic corridor between our two economies will not be undermined?
First of all, you mentioned Islamic State. Islamic State and normal terrorism are two different things. Islamic State is a phenomena where the government collapses. Governance collapses in a particular area. So there, these elements who are fighting the establishment or the government then physically take over territory, manage it, run it, and there's no writ of the government. That's a very extreme scenario. That has not happened in our part of the world. That is happening in the Levant and some countries.
So what do you think of the ideological extremism that has attracted so many brilliant young Muslims in Pakistan and indeed many other Western countries? They flock to the Islamic State to join the force of brutality.
Yes. A lot of changes have happened in the last few years. The recruitment techniques, if you see the commercials used by these people to attract young recruits, it's like a Hollywood movie. It's no longer somebody sitting there and giving you a lecture on why you should do it. So they have gone into the recruitment process in a very professional way. Secondly, in every society you have marginalized communities. You have communities where there's deprivation, a feeling of hopelessness. These are the hunting grounds for people. And when the state collapses, you see, when the big new trend in terrorism and extremism right in front of all of us is where governments abdicate their responsibility to provide control or security of an area, they withdraw, and the extreme forces go in and hold the territory, put up their flags, and then run that place. And they have their own security apparatus and everything. So if you cede authority, if you do acts which will give an open field to the extreme elements, then it is a very serious issue. In Pakistan, that is not the case. Every part of our territory is under control of the government. Of course, there are pockets where the extremists are more powerful than they are in others. But Islamic State is, at the moment, more restricted to the Levant area, where the government process has collapsed. So that vacuum is filled by these people. Having said that, back to your question, terrorism, of course, is there around the world, and Pakistan and the parts you referred to, there is possibility that these may exist. Because we are going to have a specialized force just focused on one objective, to protect these routes and to deal with those forces who could try to impede the progress of this project, the One Belt, One Road, it will be much more easier, focused approach. So the probability of anything happening will be much lower. You can never guarantee that the odd incident may take place. But I think whenever our security forces, especially the Pakistan Army, is asked to go and take charge of a situation, they have never let the nation down. And I don't see why it will happen.
While the Chinese government and most of the Chinese trust the sincerity and the confidence of and capability of the Pakistani army and Islamabad, some of us are wondering aloud why Osama bin Laden was killed inside your country. Do you think some of the elements and activists within Pakistan may have taken advantage of the loopholes and the vulnerability of your national security and may constitute a real threat comes from nowhere? And therefore we have a growing sense of uncertainty despite the vows of Islamabad to protect the Chinese workers there.
You see, the Osama bin Laden case is one isolated situation. It was clearly a failure on our part not to know that he is where he is, because he was in an urban area. And so traditionally these people they operate in areas which are away from big cities. They are in the isolated parts of the country, in the hills, so access is not very good. But obviously they were smarter than we were in terms of trying to find. But that's one isolated incident. However, I think time will tell. I'm very confident. I've seen now the progress made in Karachi, for example. Karachi is a huge city of about 20 million people. We haven't had the serious incidents which you refer to in the last year or two, because the army has now come in with the Rangers, which is a paramilitary force. There's police, there's Rangers and army. We have 3 levels of security. Now the Rangers are in the front line. They are active, and the number of incidents have come down. The army is at the back and will provide cover as needed. The number of incidents have come down. The police force, which is ill-equipped and ill-trained, is now being given the resources so that they can deal with, the policeman on the beat no longer can fight a terrorist. You have to have a whole unit, which we are doing. And we realize, I think the country realizes, the leadership realizes, that we have to control as a positive element of Pakistan's image and future. We must control extremism and terrorism at any cost.
We don't suspect the determination of Islamabad. However, among all friends of Islamabad, Saudi Arabia remains a staunch ally to a large degree. But recently, maintaining neutrality on the Yemen issue is a major move for Islamabad, and one that will surely cause the Saudis and other Arab states flush with the cash to reconsider their financial commitments to your country in the future. So my question is, Pakistan has maintained close ties with the Arab world, with Saudi Arabia in particular. Pakistan enjoys close security relationship. What's going on now?
Saudi Arabia, UAE, all the countries in the Gulf, but particularly these 2 countries have very historic close ties with us, and the relationship is very broad-based. We have several million people working there. Billions of dollars come every year from workers remitting money in. We have joint exercises with them in terms of military activity. We have lots of collaboration and cooperation and connectivity. The 3 C's apply to this relationship: the collaboration, cooperation and connectivity.
And what about the issue of Yemen?
So you see, this request for troops was received by us, and I think the communication may have been sort of got carried away, was not as effective as it would have been. Pakistan has said repeatedly, we are totally committed to the security, sanctity and integrity of Saudi Arabia, and we will do whatever it takes to protect that. The actual troops going to this specific situation, I'm not very current on the details, but I do know that as a strategy, as a policy, we are there always to protect our friends, and Saudi Arabia being what it is, we'll always be there. I think this issue will resolve itself. We did have, I might add, in the same theater, we had about 15,000 troops at least in the past in that location, and we have said that if any attack or harm comes to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, we will do whatever it takes to protect that from our limited resources. We'll be there in terms of manpower, etc. That has not happened. Nothing has come into Saudi Arabia. There's no military action within Saudi Arabia. This is happening in a 3rd country, Yemen. I'm sure the government is watching the situation closely. So our relationship with Saudi Arabia is very critical to our foreign policy, to our security policy, and to the relationship, particularly because in Saudi Arabia we have Mecca and Medina, the two holy cities of the world. They were never in threat, and that's not the issue. But the real issue is that no physical attack has happened on anybody. Nobody has crossed the border. So I think we may still be talking to each other. And if, God forbid, a situation develops, both governments will then find an amicable solution.
The last question is very different from fighting terrorism and your foreign policy in the Middle East. It's rather about the prospects of RMB, because to ensure a peaceful rise of China, how to guarantee the global status of RMB becomes a top concern on the agenda of internationalizing our RMB. Now, the IMF will conduct a twice-a-decade review of special drawing rights. China is pushing hard for the inclusion of RMB. From your perspective, I believe you are an expert of financing. Are you optimistic that RMB will eventually be listed as one of the major reserve currencies other than the US dollar, which has maintained its dominance since the early 1970s?
To me, first of all, this is not an economic issue. This is a geopolitical issue. It has nothing to do with economics. I can say without any reservation that the renminbi today is totally capable of being a reserve currency and a payment currency, i.e. trade transactions could be done which have nothing to do with China. A country like Pakistan exports to, say, a country in Africa called Nigeria. The deal can be in renminbi, like it could be in pound sterling, and it could be and usually is in US dollars. So there's no economic reason for the renminbi not to be a reserve currency, and I know this issue in quite a lot of detail. There's no technical reason not to have it there. It has the depth, it has the liquidity, it has the stability, and the way it's pegged. All those things meet the criteria. It's just like AIIB. Everybody said no, we will not do it. To me, this is one of the biggest victories for China in, geopolitically, to get so many countries to come in who initially had said no. The reason is because they all realize that having an institution which is based on a new paradigm, not Bretton Woods, and will be good for the world. It's not just for China, it's for everybody. And even the Bretton Woods institutions, if I may say, need serious reform. And because they are gridlocked, because of shareholdings and the various legal requirements which were there when they were set up, back at the time when Bretton Woods was held, the conference was held, AIIB modernizes all that, and it will be, in my view, run more professionally, more transparently, and more as a meritocracy, rather than being stuck to old conditions.
Particularly with the assistance from the UK, Germany, France.
Yes, all the countries are.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure meeting you.
Thanks a lot.